All right. It's still a bit slow on my end. I'm not sure if it's my network or it's just something with Google Meet. But can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Loud and clear.
Yes, absolutely. Can hear you.
All right. Yeah, I'm just sharing a full screen. All right. Hi everyone. Good evening. Apologies for the late start. Technical glitches. Um, Thanks, Dami. So just a brief introduction. My name is Oluwaseun Fagbule. I'm sharing a full screen, but I don't know if it's showing as full screen on your side. But yeah, let's do that again. All right. My name is Oluwaseun Fagbule. I'm a systems analyst or product reliability engineer with Visa Europe. I have approximately 7 years of experience as a business systems analyst. I worked with MTN Nigeria for about 4.5 years before I moved to the UK, and I did a bit of a part-time with Slinko UK as a process analyst while studying. I currently work as a systems analyst or product reliability engineer with Visa Europe, the payments company. All right, so before we move ahead, I've done a bit of an introduction of myself, but I would like us to introduce ourselves as well. I know we've put in the chat where we're joining from, which is fantastic. But I'd just like to know what you do currently, right? Because I mean, this masterclass is for everyone, whether experienced or inexperienced, whether you're in IT or you've never, you don't know have any idea about IT, right? So whatever it is that your background is, I just wanted to put in the chat so we have a feel of those that have joined the call today. So if you're a student or you've just graduated, you're trying to navigate, the workforce, trying to, to map out a career path for yourself, or your experience, because we've had in the past lawyers that have transitioned into tech about business analysis. We've had bankers, right? We've had health professionals that have transitioned into tech, right, via business analysis. So we'd like to know, what your background is. So just put in the chat quickly um, what your background is. Are you into banking? Are you currently a business analyst? Are you whatever it is that you are at the moment? Just to have a feel of the the background of people that we have in the class. All right. So Fredericks is a sales consultant. That's fantastic. Thanks for that. Who else? Who else? Both MSc students, international business management, no background business analysis. That's okay, and that's why this masterclass has been prepped for you, right, to give you a background, right, into business analysis. Jumoke is a lawyer, fantastic. I think in the last cohort we also had a lawyer in class. Um, that's good. Nice to have you here, Jumoke. Chidima is a pharmacist, fantastic. Afolabi, BSc Industrial Chemistry. That's good. That's good. Quite a diverse background on the call today. Right. So, I mean, as a business analyst, I think one of the good things, I'm just trying to jump the gun a bit. One of the good things about business analysis is that you can come in from any background and easily fit into business analysis. And also, you can work in any sector, right? So, if today you find yourself being, you're a pharmacist, right? You can be a business analyst in a pharmaceutical company, right? It still sort of ties into your career path, right? I don't think there's any organization in the world today or any industry in the world today that does not require a business analyst, right? So they're highly sought after. So whatever your background is, whether you're a fresher, you're not experienced, you're a lawyer, you're a banker, you're a pharmacist, there's always a place for you in business analysis, right? So again, also before we proceed, I know, for some of us, this is not the first time, you're hearing about business analysis, right? You've perhaps from your friends or from some of your colleagues, maybe online, right? You've heard about business analysis and you're not sure what, it is, or you've heard about it somehow, right? So I just want to know what your understanding is of business analysis, right? Does anyone want to share? What do you currently understand as business analysis? It doesn't have to be correct, right? Just try, you know, give yourself a go. We're all here to learn, so there are no wrong answers per se, right? So anyone wants to try, what do you understand? What do you currently understand as business analysis? Anyone? Anyone wants to try? You could come on the mic. You could also put your answer in the chat. Anyone wants to go? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because my video is paused for some reason. I think some network. Does anyone want to go? Does anyone want to try? What do you currently understand as business analysis? We've got about close to 50 people on the call, so I would expect that someone should try, right? You're here to learn, but I mean, I'm sure you must have had some background or what business analysis is. If anyone wants to give it a go, what do you think it is?
Hi, my name is Frederick. Can anyone hear me?
Please go ahead, we can hear you.
Hello? Okay, my simple understanding of what a business analyst is, it's a middleman between employees and the company.
No, I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, Aisha, please. Yeah, are you there? Guys, please let's hold while you try to join. I guess it's network.
I'm
Okay,
finding
so
it
just
difficult
give
to hear.
Hi Edward, we can hear you. So just give Sharon a couple of minutes to rejoin. I think he's having internet issues. Just bear with us. Internet is bad today. But yeah, it was asking if anybody has any idea who a business analyst is. And I'm seeing responses from people here. Okay. All right. So that's what I'm able to for him to join, to rejoin. But yeah, if you've not responded to who a business analyst is, you can go ahead and drop your response. If you've ever heard the term business analysis or you've ever heard business analysts, do you want to share who you think a business analyst is in the chat? Does anybody want to share? because it's quite quiet here. You can also like unmute yourself and give the definition. Or if you want to speak, you can use the raise hand icon and we'll call you. Yusuf, would you like to give a definition of who is a business analyst is? Hi, Yusuf.
Hello, this is Festus. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I mean, what I understand by business analysis, business analysis is a professional discipline focused on identifying business needs
Mm-hmm.
and I think providing solutions to the organizations. That's to my own understanding.
Providing solutions to organizations.
Business problem, I mean, to
Alright.
business problem, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else wants to share? Okay, Yusuf. Hi, Yusuf. Do you want to unmute yourself and share who you think a business analyst is?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. The business analyst simply means a person that collected data and process it for management decisions. That's what it simply means. Hello?
Yeah, Yusuf, we hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Yusuf, can you hear me? Yeah, we heard you. So Damla will be with us soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, I can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Okay, so yeah, I got your definition.
What I mean is that data analyst or business analytics, it simply means a process of gathering information about the business and processing it and making it meaningful for the management decisions making.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm just going to continue from where she stopped, and when it comes, you take over from there. All right. Okay, but I think I have a couple of other definitions. Okay, so let's just see people that. Hi, Bosse, do you want to share who you think a business analyst is?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
All right. I think I'm not really sure, but a data analyst helps a company to analyze their data. I think their incomes, their revenues, and the likes. Then they help to assess those things, create solutions, plan the company's future and presence using the past. I think that's basically what they do. Just managing the company.
Okay, are you defining for a business analyst or a data analyst?
A business analyst.
Okay, so they use data to make sense of companies.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Bosse.
Awesome.
Okay, so yeah, literally all the definitions that we've gotten here today are quite valid and are very, very real, true, right? So if we're talking about who a business analyst is, a business analyst is an agent of change. Okay, A business analyst is the person who is in charge of ensuring, who is in charge of the change processes within a company. According to IIBA, and IIBA, that's International Institute of Business Analysis, they define business analysis as a practice of enabling change in an organization. An organization that is looking for, that is not, that doesn't want to stay stagnant for like a very long time. Because obviously, like if you started an organization, you're looking to ensure that it moves from one point to the other. If you start with a revenue of, if you start with yearly revenue of, let's say, 300 million, you're looking to make times two of that in the next 1 year, right? So a business analyst, an organization that is looking to make changes would obviously like hire a business analyst, so gets on board a business analyst who is able to facilitate this change. Okay, so it is the practice of enabling change within an organization, a company, a business, and so on and so forth. And what they do is define needs. They define the needs of the organization. What does this organization need at this moment? What what they need from now? They are currently at this point, right? What do they need to move to the next point? That's what a business analyst is going to be defining the needs of the organization. Then they also do not just define needs, but they also provide or prefer solutions. Okay, they also prefer. Sorry if your mic is unmuted. Please can you mute? All right. Okay, so they define needs and then they recommend solutions. So they're not just defining needs for the sake of defining needs, but also to recommend solutions. It's not a situation whereby they define that, oh, this is what is wrong with the company and this is what we need to do. They also prefer solutions to the needs of the company, whereby they are able to assess what is wrong with the company at a particular point and also give a solution to it. So they define needs. As a business analyst, if you're working as a business analyst, you're going to be defining needs, you're going to be recommending solutions to those needs, you're going to be delivering value. Value is very important as a business analyst. That's why it's not everybody that can become a business analyst, right? It's not it's something that you need to actually learn before you can get into. So you define needs, you recommend solutions to these needs, and then you're delivering value. As a business analyst, you're going to be delivering value to your stakeholders, to your company, to your association, to your business, your organization, and so on and so forth. You're going to be delivering value to stakeholders. So they set up a unique set of tasks, and for you come up with you define the needs of the company, you understand the business objectives of the company, you define the needs, and then you recommend solutions to deliver value. At the end of the day, everything that you're doing, you're defining needs, you're recommending solutions, you are gathering together techniques. It's eventually to profile value, deliver value to the company, to the organization. All right. So who is a business analyst? An agent of change. Like I said, people create companies, they start their companies not to stay stagnant for a very long time, but to move from one point to the other. And the person or who they need to move from one point to the other is a business analyst. So you're an agent of change. Change is very important within any organization. It's very, very important within any organization, right? So as a business analyst, you're an agent of change. You identify needs and define the solutions that will maximize the value delivered by an organization to its stakeholders. You firstly identify the needs, and so the process of working as a business analyst, very importantly, you understand the business objectives, the goals of the business. Like they've created a business. For example, the owner of Facebook, Mark, why has he created Facebook? You understand the business objective of whatever company you find yourself. And after you do that, then you identify the needs of the company. Okay, so I'm working with Facebook. All right, I'm an agent of change. Facebook wants to move from generating a revenue of $300,000 to now they generated a need of they generated revenue of 300,000 in 2023. Now they want to move to 500,000 in 2023. So what are the solutions that I'm going to define and prefer for them to move from that level to the next level? Now, the needs that I have identified, first off, is that Facebook wants to move their revenue generation from $300,000 per month to $500,000 per month. That's the need that I've identified. Then I'll define solutions. Okay, what can we do to ensure that the needs of the company is met? Okay, so that's when we start to like profile solutions. Okay, we need to do more ads and get more people to sign up on Facebook. We need to get more people to use the Facebook marketplace to generate revenue. We need to get more people to run Facebook ads, okay, to generate more. So these are the kind of solutions that I'm going to prefer to be able to solve the needs of the company. All right, so you identify needs as a business analyst. You identify the needs of the company and define solutions that will maximize the value delivered by an organization to its stakeholders. Then you also have specialized knowledge to act as a guide and lead the business through unknown and unmapped territory. I said this is where domain knowledge comes to play, and domain knowledge is not really hard. It's like things that you can get on the internet and learn. Say, for example, you've trained as a business analyst, but you want to work in a fintech. All you have to do is just get on the internet, find out what a fintech is about, read up on the different fintechs that we have running in your society or your country, wherever you find yourself. You find out different kind of fintechs that are running, and then you just domain knowledge acquire in less than 1 week, and you're good to go. So with this specialized knowledge that you've now gotten, you're able to act as a guide to lead the business through unknown and unmapped territory. Okay, and then you also act as an interface, as a bridge between business teams and the development team. The business teams, we could have like the stakeholders, the decision owners, most of the decision owners, right? So the people that we refer to as the business teams. And then development teams, we have people like the product manager, we have the software engineers, okay, we have the data engineers, we have all those coding people. So business analysis is a tech skill that it's no code at all. When you're categorizing tech skills into no code, or no code, low code, or high code, we are categorizing business analysis under no code, because you're not even going to be coding at all. You obviously are working like in the tech space, but instead of doing all the coding and this thing yourself, what you're doing is assigning it to the development team. And when you do that, they can then take it up from that place and continue with their with thing that they are doing. So business analyst, an agent of change, you act as an interface, you identify the needs of the company, and then you with your specialized knowledge, you're able to act as the guide and lead the company through unmapped territories. Okay, so if you understand clearly who a business analyst is, or you have like a very, very better understanding of who a business analyst is, can you give me a thumbs up? All right, so yeah, thank you very much. I need more people to give me thumbs up if you understand who a business analyst is and what their role is about. Okay, let's keep it going. All right. So we are still waiting for our facilitator to join us, but I'm going to just continue. All right. So now today we want to look at gap analysis. What is gap analysis? As a business analyst, you're going to be doing a lot of gap analysis, and straight from what you can see on my screen, it's basically identifying gaps, analyzing gaps. You you let me let's look through from my screen. Okay. Okay, cool. No. So okay. All right, so I'm going to reshare my screen now. Just let me know if you can see my screen. You can just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I just want to okay. Shane, are you back now? Okay, so straight from what you can see on my screen, like I said, gap analysis, it's a method of assessing performance of a business unit or process to determine whether business requirements or objectives are being met. It's an assessing technique or an assessing a way of assessing. You know how you work on something, right? And then you want to assess if what you've worked on as you know has worked perfectly or not. That's what gap analysis is about. It's a method of assessing, you know, in business analysis, we call it gap analysis. But in the real world, we call it examination. I guess that makes sense, right? So gap analysis is the method of assessing the performance of the business unit. And you know, we have different units within the organization, right? So this gap analysis will help us know if a business unit, a particular business unit in the organization is doing perfectly well with what they ought to do or not. All right. So with gap analysis, you can determine whether a business requirements or objectives are being met or not. If as a business analyst, you've identified a need, okay, you've identified a need, and then you've provided solutions to these needs, right? And then you want to assess if this solution that you've preferred are if they work or not. You perform a gap analysis. So it's a method of assessing the performance of the business unit or process to determine whether business requirements or objectives are being met, and if not, what steps should be taken to meet these objectives. If you've performed a gap analysis and you've realized that, oh, okay, this business process is not as smooth as it should be, then you look at the next set of steps that you should take to meet these needs. So a gap analysis may also be referred to as a needs analysis, needs assessment, or need gap analysis. All right, so I think we have our facilitator back now. Thankfully, Aishim, can you hear me? Okay, the internet is really up to something today. So yes, so you can also refer to a gap analysis as a needs analysis, needs assessment, or a need gap analysis. You're using that to identify a gap within a particular business unit and how you can cover up for this gap. So we have 4 steps to performing a gap analysis. 4 main steps to performing a gap analysis. Number 1 is to analyze. Well, if you're with me so far, you understand everything I've been saying. Can you drop a thumbs up for me? If you've been with me from the start and you understand clearly everything I've been saying, can you drop a thumbs up for me? Okay, I'm going to need more people to respond. If you do not understand, you can drop a thumbs down for me.
Hi, Damila.
Hi, Shim. Shim is back.
I'm joining with my phone. I don't know what's wrong. With my personal laptop, I've tried to move the presentation and everything to my work laptop. My work laptop is restricting it based on security reasons and all of that. So I'll join with my phone. If we just go to the slides and then I can take it from there. So sorry about that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so I'll be looking at it for my slides here, and then yeah. All right, just go back to. I'm not seeing your slides. Are you sharing?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Okay. We're good now.
Just go back to the first slide. Sorry. All right, thanks. Yeah, so I know a couple of people must have said no to the a couple of people must have please let me know if you're able to hear me audibly or not. We must have, given the definition of business analysis based on our understanding, right? I must have missed some of that, but I'm sure some of you are, some of the definitions are correct, right? But we need to be able to define business analysis according to the standard, right? Which is the International Institute of Business Analysis, right? Which is IBA. So IBA defines business analysis as the practice of enabling change in an organization. So I would like you to focus well, the practice of enabling change in an organization by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders using a set of tasks and techniques. Right. I would like you to focus on the parts that have been emboldened, the bold parts in that definition. Right. So IBA defines business analysis as the practice of enabling change. Right. There's a saying that change is the most constant thing, right? We are constantly changing. As individuals, we are changing. You're here because you want to change, whether you want a career path, you want a new career path, you want to transition, you want to learn something new. It's a change, right? As we grow old, we are changing, right? Our bodies are changing, right? And so also businesses are changing, right? Companies want to improve the way they do things. They want to make more money. They want to release new products and services. That's a change, right? So moving from one point A to point B is a change, right? So companies want to move, say for example, as a company, that you work with, we made $1 million as profit last year, right? Financial year 2023. But this year we want to make, $1.5 million, right? Whatever is going to take us to that point is going to require a change, right? So as companies, as organizations, as individuals, we are changing constantly. So business analysis is that practice of enabling that change, right? Allowing your company to move from point A to point B, right? To move from a place where they are not performing or where they are underutilizing their resources to a point where they are utilizing, their resources properly, right? So it's a practice of enabling change in an organization. So as a business analyst, you're going to enable that change in an organization, right? By defining needs. Remember, we're looking at those parts that we've boldened by defining needs, right? So as part of that change, the company would have needs, right? As individuals, we have needs, right? Some of us right now is want to buy rice. Some of us the fuel. For those in Nigeria, you need a lot of things, right? Fuel, lights, there's eats, there's all of that. Those are your needs, right? So the same way companies would have needs, right? They want to create a new product, right? They want to create a new service for their customers, right? So they would have those needs, or perhaps there's a particular process that is not working, right, at the moment, right? And that's their need, right? So you would define those needs for the company and recommend solutions, right? So when you've defined the needs in this case basically is the problem. What problem is the company facing, right, at this moment? So, for example, maybe our target for the year was for us to be able to make $1 million, in sales, right? But we're not able to hit that target. We only made, $800,000, right? So that's a problem because we've set a target but was not been able to meet it, right? Now you need to recommend solution as a business analyst, right, for your company to be able to meet their targets, to meet their need, right? So remember, we're looking at the part that is emboldened, right? The practice of enabling change in an organization by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value. So whatever solution you're recommending to the business, to your company, as a business analyst, has to deliver value, right? You don't want to do all the work, of defining a need, recommending a solution and it doesn't add value. It has to deliver value in one way or the other, right? And value always does not have to be in terms of, monetary or financial gains, right? Sometimes it could be, increase in customers, that's adding value. So whatever product or service you're working on at that point, it could be, to increase customer base, it could be to increase customer loyalty, and all sorts. It doesn't necessarily have to be, of course, money is also value, but in whatever form, you have to be able to deliver value from your recommended solution, right? And you're delivering this value to stakeholders. So you would have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders, right? So your internal stakeholders would be, the managers, the senior management team, the CEO, the CFO, chief financial officer, the chief marketing officer, the product managers, those are your stakeholders, internal stakeholders. And of course, you'd have your external stakeholders, right, which are your customers, right, the end users for the products or service that you're going to be building, right? And you're delivering this value to stakeholders using a set of tasks and techniques. Right. So there are several tasks, there are several techniques that we use in business analysis, right? But one of them is what we're going to be talking about today, which is gap analysis. There's other, types of techniques. There's, the elicitation techniques and, process mapping and all sorts. But we're going to be looking specifically at gap analysis in today's masterclass, right? So just for you to remember again, business analysis is the practice of enabling change, right? You're a change enabler in an organization by defining needs, right, the problems, and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders using a set of tasks and techniques, right? Dami, I think you're not sharing your screen anymore. It's the page. I think you've moved out of it. All right. So who is a business analyst, right? So from the definition that we've just given, the business analyst is an agent of change, right? So, and I think this is very paramount, right? If you're going to be a business analyst, you need to see yourself as an agent of change, right? You're there primarily to enable change in the organization. Whatever problem, whatever challenges that the company is facing at that time, you're there to move them from that problem or that challenge to a better position. So you are a change agent, basically, right? As a business analyst. Number two, you identify needs and define the solutions that will maximize the value delivered by an organization to stakeholders. Again, just also leveraging on the definition from RIBA. You identify needs and you define those solutions, right, that will maximize value. Number three, you have specialized knowledge to act as a guide and lead the business through unknown or mapped territory, right? So many of these companies don't, they typically don't they have an idea where they want to be, but they don't know how to get there, right? And that's where you come in as a business analyst, right? So you carry out research, you do all of these things. So a company has said to you, for example, that they want to, we're all familiar with Tesla, right? So a company has come, Tesla, which is, a driverless car that can drive itself, right? So they've come to you to say, okay, maybe today your company you work with Mercedes, for example, right? And Mercedes currently only produces or manufactures petrol-powered cars, right? And now they've come to you that they want to build, a car, that can drive itself, right? They want to build an electric car that you can charge, with electricity and all of that. They've not done it before as Mercedes, right? They've not. It's an unknown territory for them, right? But that's the idea. That's where they want to get to, because they're currently building, petrol-powered, vehicles, but they also want to start building, electric powered vehicles, right? So as a business analyst, it's your responsibility to then carry out research. How, can we move as a company that currently produces petrol-powered cars to producing electric-powered vehicles, right? So what do we need to do? For example, some of the things you need to do, of course, there's going to be some electrical revamp in the way the cars are built. You have to bring in things like, navigation systems. If the car is going to be driverless, it has to have its own navigation system to guide it and all of those things. So as a business analyst, you act as that guide, right, to lead them through that unknown or map territory. So it doesn't mean that you know everything, right? And because I know some people on the call be like, so am I supposed to know everything? It doesn't necessarily mean that you know everything, right? But as a business analyst, you would be given the tools, right, for you to walk them through that territory, right? So you'll be given the research tools. You would have subject matter experts in that space, maybe a mechanical engineer or, an automobile engineer that you would, talk to, and these people will, guide you as well as a business analyst whilst you are also guiding the business. Right. So you act as that specialized knowledge, to act as a guide and lead the business through unknown or map territory. Now, number 4, and this is the part I love most about, being a business analyst. You are an interface between the business teams and the development teams, right? So you're sort of like a middleman, right? So when we talk about business teams, we're talking about, so if you work in a company, typically you have, marketing department, you would have finance department, you would have HR, you'd have sales department, and all sorts, right? So those guys are categorized as the business teams, right? And they will be the ones that would have those ideas that want to build, an electric powered vehicle, want to build a banking app, for example, want to build, a financial app, maybe for kids, for example, maybe you want kids, you want to start, you want to build a solution to allow kids to start imbibing the culture of saving, right? So maybe a savings app for kids, for example. So let's say you work with a fintech company, right? And then someone from marketing will come and say, okay, we have this idea, want to build a financial application for kids, a saving application for kids, so that, right from 5-year-olds, the kids can start to save, little money they get from their uncles and aunties. They can start to put it into that savings account, and when they grow up, they can have that money to themselves. That's a requirement, right? I want us to start getting familiar with those things. That's a requirement, right, that the business has given to you. So that's the business team. Now, as the business analyst, right, you then need to take these requirements and break it down into bits and pieces, right? If you're going to build a savings app for kids, right, it's not just going to be, you're not just going to wake up the next morning and you have a savings app, right? Some of the things that we need to go into having a savings app, of course, you have to build, a user interface, right? Of course, they have to be, a mechanism for them to be able to log in, right? To create an account and log in, right? After they've logged in, there has to be a mechanism for them to have, different features. Okay, this is my account, account balance, and all of those things. Those are features. So as a business analyst, you then break that high level requirement that you get from the business into bits and pieces, and then you pass this on to the development teams. Now, it's the development teams that will then build the actual solution. So you're not the one doing the coding and all of that. The development teams will be the one. I'm just trying to, to paint the picture of what a business analyst does, right? For some of us that don't have the background, right? So the development team will then take all of these requirements to say, okay, the savings app shall have an account creation feature. It shall have a login feature. Shall have the ability for me to see my account balance. It shall have the ability for me to, for peradventure, you want to give promos, right? To say for example, if you save up to 5,000 naira in a month, you get additional 500 naira. All of those features, right? So you would break all of those features down into bits and pieces, and then you pass it on to the development team. The development team will then work, on these requirements that you've given to them, and then build the actual solution. So they'll be the ones doing the coding and all of that, right? So it is interesting because you are that middleman. You're interfacing with the business teams, right? And you're also interfacing with the development team, right? So in that way, I mean, the reason why I love it so much is you're getting an understanding. You're sort of having the best of both worlds, right? You have an understanding of the business from the business perspective. You also have an understanding of development, right? So as the more you work with the development team, the more you start to pick up some technical, competencies. I know a couple of business analysts try to shy away from that to say, I just want to, what I heard about business analysis is that it's not technical. Yes, business analysis is not so much technical. It's one of the easiest, tech roles for you to transition into tech. But like I always like I always say to people, the more you work with development teams, the more you're exposed to these technical capabilities, right? And it's in your own best interest to try to pick them up, right? Because as you progress through your career and all of that, they will come in handy, and you can, you be more useful to the company, and then you can get promotions, at ease, right? So as a business analyst, you are that interface between the business teams and the development team. So you get the high level requirements from the business team, for marketing, you probably say, want to build a savings application for kids. You take that requirements, you break it down, you distill it into bits and pieces. It must have a login feature, account creation feature, account balance feature. You do your research, you go online, do your research, you break it down into bits and pieces, and then you pass all of those requirements to the development teams, to the tech guys, for them to code and build it. So you're having the best of both worlds, right? So basically that's a business analyst. So if you move to the next slide, please, Dami. So if you have any questions, you just raise your hand. All right. So we said earlier that there are several techniques that is available to us in business analysis, right? But today we're going to be talking specifically on gap analysis, right? So what is gap analysis? Gap analysis is a method of assessing the performance of a process or service, right, to determine whether business requirements or objectives are being met. If not, what steps should be taken to meet them, right? So as the name implies, gap analysis, right? So you're trying to do an analysis, a gap analysis, right? So as a company, we have decided, or we've set a target for last year, financial year 2023, that we're going to make, and a lot of companies do that. I mean, for those of us that already work in companies, towards the end, at the beginning of the year, at the start of the year, most companies will start to, set goals and objectives to say, okay, this is our target for the year and all of that. So say, for example, the company you work with, they've set a target and say they want to make $1 million in revenue, right, for that year, right? But at the end of December last year, right, by the time they did all of the calculations and all of that, you're only able to make $800,000. Right. Now, you need to be able to find out, why did we not meet our targets, right? So this is where we are at the moment. We made $800,000, even though our target is $1 million. Then there's a gap. There's a gap of $200,000, basically, right? In simple man's term, that's gap analysis, right? Understanding what it requires for you to go from point A, to where you want to be. So where we want to be as a company as a last year was to make $1 million in revenue, but we only made $800,000. That means there's a gap somewhere, which we need to analyze, right? So that's gap analysis. Now, gap analysis may also be referred to as needs analysis, needs assessment, or need gap analysis, right? But most often than not, it's called a gap analysis. Now, there are 4 steps to performing gap analysis, right? Number 1 is to analyze the current state of the process, right? And this current state in business analysis terms, we call it the as is, right? ASIS, as is, right? The current state that we are at the moment, right? That is the as is, right? So in the analogy that I gave earlier, right? So as a company, our target is to make $1 million in revenue, but we made only $800,000, right? That is the current state. That is our as is, where we are at the moment, right? So you need to understand where you are at the moment, right? The current state of that process, of that service, or of that company, or of that product, before you can then be able to carry out a gap analysis, right? So, for example, your company wants to become the most loved, the best. They want to become the best company in your industry, right? But your customer support team reports that many calls and customer interactions end in frustration on the customer's part, right? And this is something you would face, and it's something I'm quite used to, right? Whilst working with MTN, right? We have customer service centers, and customers will call in, and sometimes they call in and they are waiting for 30 minutes. Sometimes and a couple of us have had those experiences. It doesn't even have to do with just telecom service, right? You could just do with any service that has a customer care line, right? Sometimes you call in and then you just, there's a song that just keeps playing and playing. Sometimes you're there 30 minutes, sometimes you're there 40 minutes, and sometimes you can just get frustrated and just end the call, just be like, I can't keep up with this, so that's a challenge, right? So for your company, let's say, for example, that is the current state, that is the as is, right? Even though you want to be, a company that, customers are saying, maybe we're calling, our calls are answered, or, we have other channels where we can reach, the company, whether via Twitter, whether via, that's where you want to be as a company. But currently, where you are at the moment is that, a lot of customer calls or interactions end in frustration because they are not able to reach you, reach your customer service, right? So that's the current state, right? So an analysis of that current state would lead you to finding the root cause and underlying problems, right? So the first step to performing a gap analysis is to analyze the current state of that process. Now, number two, identify the ideal future state, right? So now you want to have the big picture, right? The big picture basically is you want to be a company where, whenever a customer has a problem with their phone or with their SIM or with their line or with their service, they can easily reach you, under 1 minute, 2 minutes, the customer has access to you, all of that. That's the future state. That's where you want to be as a company, right? So in doing this, you need to identify what are the gaps, right? So that takes me to number three. So number one is to analyze the current state of that process, the as is, right? Currently, as a company, the company that you work with, right, the fictitious company we're talking about right now, the company that you work with currently, they want to be the best in the industry, but customers cannot get through to their service center. Customers cannot get through to their customer care center, right? Because they have to wait hours on ending, right? The ideal future state is that we want customers to be able to reach us, under 2 minutes. The customer has their query resolved and the customer is happy and fine. That's the ideal future state. Now, number three, we need to then be able to identify the gap, right? The gap. Now, in identifying the future state, number two, that is what we call in business analytics terms, that's what we call the to be, right? So the current state, like I said earlier, is called the as is, right? This is the as is, where we are at the moment, right? The future state where we want to get to is the to be, TO-BE, the to be. That's what we want to get to, right? So first, you analyze the current state of that process. Number two, you identify the ideal future state where you want to get to. Now, number three is then to identify the gaps, right? What is keeping us from getting to our ideal future state, right? This is where we are at the moment as a company. Our customers are calling in, they're frustrated that they cannot reach us. Some of them are even leaving our service, leaving our network to go to, to the competition because they're frustrated at our network. We're losing revenue because of that. But where we want to get to as a company, which is the to be, the future state, is where the customer is able to reach us. Any customer that has any issues, they're able to reach us quickly and the issues are resolved and the queries are solved, right? So what is the gap? What is keeping us from getting to that ideal future state, to that to be, right? So putting the first two steps together, that's your as is, the current state, and your to be, would expose, the things that are missing, right? So now this is the time to evaluate the gaps, to get to the root of the problem, right? So this is now when you start to get details of why you aren't as successful as you want to be as a company or for that particular process, right? It could be a hiring problem, a training problem, a resource problem, or something else, right? So in the example that I've given, right, so the assist is that customers always have to call, right? They have to call in to say, we have this issue, we have this problem, but they wait for 45 minutes, sometimes 1 hour, their calls are not picked, then they are frustrated, they leave, right? The ideal future state for you is that from whichever channel you want customers to be able to reach you as quickly as possible. Now, the gaps that you're by the time you put these two, your assist and your to be together, you start to identify the gaps, right? So in this case, the gap probably is that, you only have one channel through which your customers can reach you, right? Which is probably just via phone call, right? And then you start to see that, okay, perhaps we need to create more channels for customers, to reach us, maybe via Twitter. These days, a lot of companies have what we call chatbots, right? Self-service, right? Where you just chat with sort of like, an AI-powered robot, chat robot on the other end, right? And then for a lot of people, they get their issues resolved at that point. They don't even need to call in, right? So you start to identify, okay, these are some of the things that we probably need to do to get to our ideal future state, whereby a customer can reach us at any point in time and as quickly as possible, right? Now, number four is then to create and implement a plan to bridge that gap. So you've done your analysis of the current state, number one. You've identified what the future state, what you want it to be, right? You've identified the gaps that, okay, we don't have enough channels. We need to have, create more channels for customers to reach us. Now, you need to create and implement a plan, which is number four, right? The last one, to bridge that gap, right? So once you've identified the existing gaps and have evaluated how they are keeping you or that process from achieving your goals, you then need to develop action items, to bridge that gap. That is where you then start to come up with requirements and say, okay, we need to develop new channels. You start to do requirement elicitation, and then you start to build those new channels, right? So that by the time you finish building those new channels, customers can then start to reach you, as quickly as possible. And then you can say we are now in our future state. Customers are able to reach us, as quickly as possible. Right. So that's gap analysis, and those are the first steps, to performing a gap analysis. Dami, if you could move to the next slide, please. Now we're going to be looking at some use cases for gap analysis, right? And we've done this in such a way that you're able to relate with it in layman's terms, right? And again, like I said, as a business analyst, you can work in virtually any industry, right? You don't have to restrict yourself to, because I know a lot of people are like, I must work with, if I'm not working with Google, or I'm working with Amazon, or working with Facebook, I'm not in tech. No, right? You can work in virtually any industry as a business analyst, and you're sought after in every industry. As a business analyst, you can work in real estate. As a business analyst, you can work, in whatever industry, that you find yourself in, right? And real estate, as we know it today, is one of the, biggest selling industries, right? There's a lot of money there. A lot of people are investing, in real estate, right? So one of the use cases we'll be looking at is increasing real estate sales, right? So we have John here. John is a real estate agent who wants to increase his sales, right? John is into real estate. Right. So we're going to follow the 4 steps of performing a gap analysis that we looked at in the previous slides, right? The first one, which is analyzing your current state. Can anyone remind us what we said the current state is in business analysis terms? Anyone? What did we say the current state is? So I'm just trying to locate the charts on my phone. Can you guys hear me audibly? I'm just checking the chat. Someone says, okay, yeah. Okay, draw call. Thank you for that. That's assist, right? Amarachi, yeah. That's assist, right? And what did we say the future state is in business analysis terms? Oh, yeah, to be. Yeah. So we're going to be looking at this use case based on the 4 steps to performing, a gap analysis. Right, I'm just going to go back. So John is a real estate agent. So the first step, remember, is analyze the current state of that process. Number 2 is to identify the ideal future state, which is the to be. Number 3 is to identify the gaps. Number 4 is to bridge the gap. Right. So John is a real estate agent who wants to increase his sales. What is the current state? So John looks like, okay, what is my current state at the moment? So in performing a gap analysis, John starts by assessing his current annual sales, which is $1 million in property sales. So the as-is for John at the moment is, he's making $1 million in property sales. Now, what is the future state, right? The ideal future state that John wants to get to. So John wants to increase his sales by 20% this year, right? So let's say at the end of last year, John was able to make $1 million in sales, which is fine. I mean, so sometimes I wonder why people look for more money. You've made $1 million last year. I mean, you should be okay with that, but sometimes as individuals, as humans, we are insatiable, so we want to make more money, and that's what drives a lot of companies, right? And that's why things will keep changing, because you want to make more money as a company, so you need to create new products, create new services, so that people can engage with them, purchase them, buy them, so you can make more money, right? So the current state for John is making $1 million in property sales. Now, what is the ideal future state for him? He wants to increase his sales by 20% this year, which is a SMART goal, right? So we are all familiar with the SMART goal. It should be specific, measurable, achievable, it should be realistic, I think, and it should be time bound, right? So he has set a SMART goal to increase his sales by 20% this year, right? So that he's going to start making $1.2 million, right? So current state as is that he made $1 million last year. Is to be future state is we want to make $1.2 million. Now it looks to identify the gaps. So by asking, it has to ask questions. Why am I not selling more? Right? Because until I sell more, before I can, make more money. Right. So John realizes that he's not having enough conversations with buyers and needs to expose himself to more people in the housing market. So you are seeing that, I mean, one of the gaps for me is that, for me to be able to sell more, for me to be able to make more money, I need to sell more, right? And for me to sell more, it means that, I need to have conversations with more people so that they can buy from me, right? So he realizes he's not having enough conversations with buyers and needs to expose himself to more people in the housing market. So what does John do to bridge the gap? Right. To overcome this deficit, John commits to joining 2 new networking groups that meet monthly. Right. In doing so, John is able to talk to more people and expand his network of potential buyers, thus creating a solid game plan for success. So he has analyzed his current state. I'm currently making $1 million. My future state, my to be is that I want to start making I want to make $1.2 million this year. In identifying the gaps, I've seen that I'm not selling more properties, right? For me to do that, I need to, expose myself to more people in the housing market. Then how can I bridge the gap, right? As John, right? I then decide to join, new networking groups so that I can meet more people who are going to be potential buyers and they can buy more properties from me, and then I can get to my ideal future state, right? That's the first use case. Damn it, please, the next slide. So the second use case we're looking at is, improving tax return efficiency, right? So let's say you work in a tax returns office, right? Or you're a tax auditor, or and all of those things, right? So this is Jessica, right? On the left hand side, you can see Jessica is sitting beautifully on her desk, right? So Jessica runs a tax filing office and feels that her staff is not very efficient in doing each return, thus injuring bottom line performance, right? So she runs a tax filing office and feels that our staff are not, they're not efficient in doing their tax return at the end of each month. Now, what is the current state, right, for that company? The average time for our staff to complete a tax return is 55 minutes, right? They start to do an analysis of the as is, the current state. Now, she compares this to other tax filing offices where their average time is 35 minutes per return. Right. So Jessica has found that, okay, other tax filing offices are completing their tax return on an average time of 35 minutes. My company or my office is completing theirs in 55 minutes, right? There's a gap, there's an issue there, right? So what is the future state? She sets a smart goal of reducing tax return preparation time to 35 minutes, right? So that, so that by 35 minutes, they're able to complete their own tax returns as well. Now, in identifying the gaps, she starts to ask her staff, why it takes them so much longer than other offices, right? And then she realizes that they are not utilizing all the software tools that are available to them that can fasten or hasten, the tax returns filing. So she analyzed the current state. She saw that they are currently, completing a tax return within 55 minutes. But when compared to other offices, the other offices are completing theirs in 35 minutes. The future state for her is she also wants to be completing, theirs at 35 minutes. She looks at the gap. Okay, how can I identify the gaps? She starts to ask questions, and then she finds out that the reason why our staff are spending much more time is because some of the tools that they've made available to them, they are not using those tools, and it is those software tools that will make it faster, for them to complete their tax returns. So in bridging that gap, what does Jessica do? Jessica decides to do, to implement a training program that will teach our staff how to use the resources available to them to shorten the time, to prepare each return. Again, with looking at it, we follow the 4 steps, to performing a gap analysis. Analyzing your current state, which is your as is, identifying your future state, which is the to be. So in the current state, they were preparing tax returns in 55 minutes, while other companies were preparing theirs under 35 minutes. The future state for them is they want to get to the point where they are preparing tax returns in 35 minutes. In identifying the gaps, she starts to ask questions as she finds that the software tools that enables them to expedite each filing is not being used by staff. In bridging the gap, she decides to implement a training program to say perhaps these guys are just not well trained. Perhaps sometimes when you're introduced to a new software, it can be overwhelming, right? For the first few weeks because it's a new software you're exposed to. So sometimes some people can just say, I'm just gonna pack this software somewhere and keep doing what I'm doing. But in actual fact, it's in using that software that will make your work faster, right? So what she does to bridge that gap is she decides to implement a training program that will teach our staff how to use the resources available to them, to shorten the time to prepare each return. So that's Jessica. Right. Next slide, please. So there are several gap analysis tools, right, that we can use. But one of them that we'll be talking about two gap analysis tools today. And the first one is SWOT analysis. And I'm sure a couple of us on the call already, we understand what the SWOT analysis is, right? But for the purpose of those that don't, so SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? So strengths, which is the S. So SWOT is basically an acronym, right? And the S stands for strengths, W stands for weaknesses, O stands for opportunities, and T stands for threats, right? So what does SWOT do? SWOT helps you to determine the internal and external threats to your organization, right? And see where and how you can stand out against the competition, right? Because every company has competition, right? The company you're working with today, they've got their own competition, right? For example, MTN in Nigeria has competition with Airtel, right? So you want to know what your strengths are against Airtel, for example, right? Deloitte, for example, has a competition, perhaps KPMG, right? You want to know what your weaknesses are, right, against KPMG, and the like. So SWOT analysis helps you to identify those internal and external threats to that organization or to that process or service and see where you can stand out against the competition. Right. So when let's go to each of the grids, each of the quadrants, right? So when you look at your screen, you see where we have strengths, right? So as part of strengths, you start to ask questions like, what are the things that we currently do well as a company? Or what are the things that our service, is well known for? Right. So what do we do well, as a company? That's our strength, right? And what's unique about our organization or about our product offering or about our service, right? So that thing that is unique about your organization or about your product or that thing that you do really well, right, is what you would term as your strength, right? So for example, let's say the company you work with, right, your customer service is world class compared to other competitions, right? Seeing as you have an NPS score of 90, right? So NPS basically means Net Promoter Score, right? So what Net Promoter Score does, just want to give a brief explanation. And a lot of companies use this. I know telecoms companies definitely use it, but aside that, a lot of companies, a lot of service companies, right, also use what we call Net Promoter Score. So what Net Promoter Score does is it gives you a feel. It gives you an estimation of how customers feel about your product or about your service, right? So usually, whenever you buy a product, right, online or anywhere, or you call customer care, sometimes they tell you to take a survey, at the end of your interaction with them to say, are you happy? Or if it's online, sometimes you see an emoji, happy emoji or sad emoji, all of those surveys feeds into what we call the Net Promoter Score, right? And it basically tells how customers feel about that product or that service, right? And how likely they are to recommend that product or that service or that company to others. So if this, for this particular use case, right, this company is saying we've got a world-class customer service because our Net Promoter Score is 90. Right. I remember one time when, and this Net Promoter Score is very huge in telecoms industry. And I remember back then in MTN, when usually MTN would usually pride ourselves as the best telecoms company in Nigeria, right? But those that are not familiar with Nigeria, MTN is a telecoms company in Nigeria, just as we have in the UK, BT, Vodafone, and the like. Right. So MTN would usually pride ourselves as the best, telecoms company in Nigeria. But I think there was a particular quarter, I can't remember, I think it was sometime in 2019 or 2020, in the midst of COVID, somewhere along the line, we used to have the best NPS score in the industry. We were above Airtel, we were above Etisalat, and all of that. But all of a sudden, in that particular quarter, we found that, we had slipped to third. Right, so I think Etisalat was leading the rank for that quarter because the NPS score would always be released at the end of the quarter. So Etisalat was leading, Airtel came second, and MTN was third, and it was a big issue. The CEO, everyone came clamping down on everybody. Everyone in IT were getting the knocks. people in customer service were getting the knocks. Why is this so? Why are customers not happy with our services? Are they not able to reach us? And all of those things, right? But we found out that, and then we started to do gap analysis to find, okay, what could be, the cost of this. And we found out that at that point, Etisalat had, they had sort of like rebranded their service centers. One of the things that we saw, there were a number of things that we observed. One of the major things that we saw was, Etisalat had rebranded their customer service centers. So typically, telecoms company would have their customer service centers where you can walk into, whether you want to buy a SIM, you walk in there, you register your SIM, or you have an issue, you can walk in there. We have it scattered across the nation, right? For Etisalat, they did a rebrand, the quarter prior, and what they did was they basically rebranded all of their service centers, and now they no longer called it a service center, they called it an experience center, right? And they did it so well. They did this so well, so much so that when you enter into an Etisalat customer experience center, you felt like you were abroad, right? The ACs were working. You didn't have to like pick a number, a paper number. You go in there. There's like a tab. You enter in your name, and it automatically generates a number for you. And then you're able to see on the screen, your number. When it's your turn, there's a automated voice that calls you. Please go to customer service rep number 2. Everything was automated. It was really nice, and LED screens everywhere. So that was an experience for customers. Whereas when you walked into MTN's customer service center at the time, right now they've done a lot of rebranding as well. At the time, it was just you walk in, the security will give you a number, tear a piece of paper, give it to you. You go and sit down. You're waiting. You don't even know when is your turn. All of those things. So all of those things fits into the net promoter score. And then we found out that was one of the reasons why Etisalat was leading for that quarter. And then we had to bring in some things in place, so that we can get back on top. Of course, it took us another like 2 quarters, to get back. But I'm just trying to drive on that point, right? So one of the strengths for this company is that they have a world-class customer service, right? Their NPS score is 90, which is their strength. Now we move to weaknesses and the other quadrants, right? What could be improved, right? So some of the questions we start to ask as part of your weaknesses: what are the things that we can improve on, right? What resources could improve our performance, right? So as part of that, this company found that they looked at their e-commerce visibility. So they're saying that our website visibility is low due to our lack of marketing budget, right? With transactions continuing to decrease, right? So they're saying we have a website. So let's say this is an online, this is an e-commerce website, for example, like Jumia, Amazon, that we know. So Jumia has a website, or Amazon has a website, right? But they are not marketing that website as much as possible, right? And a lot of us are familiar with it. Sometimes you're scrolling through Instagram and then you see an ad for a particular, store for you to buy something. That's giving visibility, to their company, to their product, right? So this company is saying that, even though we do so well with our customer service, our NPS score is 90. However, we have low e-commerce visibility. We're not marketing our product as much as possible. And if you don't market your product to reach the right audience, of course, transactions will decrease. People won't know about it. I mean, I won't buy what I don't know about or what I've not heard about, right? So they're saying that's one of their weaknesses. Now we move to opportunities, right? And they're saying that as part of opportunities, we start to ask questions: are there market gaps in our services? What are our goals this year, right? So they look at their marketing campaign and say, one of the opportunities, right, based off the weakness is that we can improve our e-commerce visibility. That's an opportunity for us. If we decide to start running ads, adverts on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, we'll be able to reach more people, right? Our e-commerce website, for example, if it's targeted towards the youths, right, Gen Zs, most of these people are on Instagram, they're on TikTok, right? So if we're able to, improve our visibility by, giving targeted ads on these platforms, we'll reach this audience, right, which is our target audience, right? And we'll be able to tap into that opportunity, right? And that's an opportunity for us. So we've looked at the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities. Now they're looking at the threats, right? No matter how strong a company is, there's always the threats, right? I remember when what was it called now? This Elon Musk satellite is going to come into Nigeria. What's the name? I always forget. This satellite stuff that Elon Musk was going to. Someone remind me in the chat. Um, there was it's not SpaceX. There's this satellite dish thing that Elon Musk, Starlink. Yes, thanks for that, Damilola. Starlink, where they're going to introduce Starlink. At the time, it was a massive threat to all the four telecoms communications company in Nigeria: MTN, Airtel, Etisalat, and Glo. It was a threat. It was a threat even to. I mean, MTN still is the biggest, telecoms company in Nigeria, and at the time it was a threat to them because you just can't figure how these guys are going to come and take away your business, right? They're going to offer, they were promising to offer, fast internet speeds, at very low prices and all of those things. That's a threat to your business, right? So as part of that, you need to start checking what are what are there industry changes, are there market trends that are on the horizon, right? They're going to be a new competitor that will come on board, to take our market share, right? That's a threat, right? So for this e-commerce business, with a new e-commerce competitor set to launch within the next month, they could see a decline in customers. So imagine. I mean, in Nigeria today, we have Jumia and Konga as the major e-commerce companies, right? Imagine if Amazon then decides today that they want to launch, Amazon e-commerce in Nigeria. That's a massive threat to Jumia. It's a massive threat to Konga. And I'm sure at the moment, I mean, they've sort of analyzed and tried to find ways, to mitigate that threat if it happens, right? Because it's bound to happen, right? So that's the threat in that case. So what analysis helps you to identify the internal or external threats, to your organization by identifying what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats, that could possibly, come up. Right. That's one of the gap analysis tools. Now we'll move on to the next slide, the next one, which we'll be talking about. That means the next slide, please. And that's the fishbone diagram. Right. And this is named for its distinctive shape, right? In the fishbone diagram. It's also known as the Ishikawa cause and effect or herringbone diagrams, right? And what it does is it basically explores the possible causes of a root problem. So it's called a fishbone diagram, right? Even though it's sometimes known as Ishikawa. Ishikawa is the name of the person that founded, these two. It also could be called a cause and effect diagram, which I love, and I'll come back to that as per why it's called a cause and effect diagram. Or it's also called an herringbone diagram, right? So if you look at this shape, right, you can see it looks like a fish. You can see the head of the fish where you have the problem statement. You can see what it looks like, the fins, right? The fins of the fish, right? Where you have all of those other parts there. So it's also called the herringbone diagram because for this kind of fish, which is an herringbone fish, it has a lot of bones, right, in it. And those bones are what basically are the causes, right, for the effect that we're seeing, which I would explain shortly. Right. So a fishbone diagram is named for its distinctive shape and it helps to explore the possible causes of a root problem. Right. So it's called a cause and effect diagram because, I mean, for most part, the first thing you see when you look at a fish is, it's the head, right? The first thing that almost occurs to you is you see the head of the fish, and that is the effects, right? That's why it's called a cause and effect, right? So it's where you have problem statement in that diagram. I'm not sharing my screen, so I can't really put my cursor there, which I always love to, but you just have to make do. So the head of the fish is the effect, right? An effect of a thing is what you can see, right? For example, you get to your house and what you can see or what you can feel. You get to your house, for example, and you find out that you try to turn on the light and there's no light, right? The effect that you can see is that there's no light at the moment. So you now start to find what are the causes to that effect, right? So a possible cause could be that maybe NEPA has come to your streets to cut your to cut your wires, or probably you've not recharged if you're using a prepaid meter, or something extraordinary has happened, that's when you now start to find what the causes are. But the effect that you're seeing at that moment is that you don't have light, you don't have power, right? So that's the head of the fish. That's why it's called, and that's what I particularly love that definition, a cause and effect diagram. So when you see the effect is what you typically would see at first. And then you now start to dig down to finding out what are the causes of this effect? What are the things that are causing this effect that I'm seeing or that I'm feeling? Right. So for you to be able to do that, to find those causes, right, that are the things that are causing those effects, we have what we call the 6M's framework for a root cause. The 6M's framework for a root cause, right? And I would explain all of this in the next slide with a real life a case study, so to drive home the point. So number one, we have manpower or people, right? So if you look down from the problem statement, the head of the fish, when you come down to your left, you see people there, right? And this refers to the physical or mind or knowledge of the personnel, right? So the people, right? So what the fishbone diagram does for you, or what the 6M's framework does for you, is it gives you a template, right? That sort of directs you to places to investigate, right? So you have an effect, you don't have light. So how do you know the things to check that's possibly causing you not having light? I don't know if it makes sense, but I would explain in a bit more detail, right? So what the 6M's framework does is that it directs you to those categories, right? To those points. To say, have you looked at this category? Have you looked at the people that are involved as part of this process, right? Let's say this entire thing is a process, right? Have you looked at the people that are involved as part of that process, right? Have you investigated to see if there's something wrong with the people, and that's why you're seeing that effect, right? So it could be that maybe you've even recharged your prepaid meter, but it's just not coming up, right? So maybe it's the NEPA folks that need to do something or fix something. So have you investigated that, right? Number two is method, right? Which refers to the production process, right? So have you looked at the method, right, with which that process is being carried out? So the 6M's framework gives you that framework or that template to say, look at this category, look at that category, look into that and investigate. And from there, you'll be able to possibly find out, the causes, that is leading to that effect. Now, machines, right, refers to the machine or equipment, right? So perhaps it's your prepaid meter itself, the prepaid machine itself that is faulty. It's to tell you, okay, have you checked your prepaid meter? Have you checked the machine? Perhaps it's faulty in itself. And then you find the possible cause. Then the material, right, which refers to the raw materials used for production of a final product. And then the medium, right? Have you looked at the environment, the medium with which all of this process is being done? This refers to the effect of unpredictable environmental factors such as weather, flood, or humidity, right? So it could be that the reason why you don't have light is because overnight there was a heavy rain that fell, and it fell off your pole that supplies electricity to your house based on the environmental factor. So what I don't know if you're getting this now. What the 6M's framework does for you is that it points you to each of these categories, right? And then number 6 is measurement. To say it refers to inspections and physical measurements, such as volume or temperature, to find out what the possible root causes are, to that effect that you're seeing. Right. Next slide, please, Danny. So we're going to look at a use case quickly now, using the fishbone diagram, right? And we're going to be looking at this. An operations manager at an assembly line at Coca-Cola has noticed that production is not meeting expectations. After completing the gap analysis, they find the root cause to be an issue with some machinery. Now they know exactly what to fix to improve production. An operations manager at an assembly line at Coca-Cola has noticed that production is not meeting expectations. Now, let's say the target for this particular Coca-Cola plant, right? So I'm a bit familiar, with, and I'll explain what assembly line is and all of that, because I've sort of been privileged to go into an assembly line, specifically a Coca-Cola assembly line plant in Ikeja. So most producing companies, FMCG companies like Coca-Cola, for example, they would have plants, or we have plants or companies or offices in different areas, right? So In this case, Coca-Cola has one in Ikeja, right? And let's say the target for Coca-Cola Ikeja is that, at the end of every month, they want to be producing, let's say, 10,000 cartons of Coca-Cola in plastic bottles, right? Those PET bottles that we buy, right? So the target is that, they want to be producing 10,000 cartons of Coca-Cola at the end of every month. That's the target. And most operations managers will have those targets. Say, this is your target, 10,000 cartons every month, so that we can meet the demand within the Ikeja axis. Right. But as part of this, they found out that, at the end of the month, they were not able to meet up with producing 10,000 cartons. They were only able to produce 7,000 cartons. Remember, we are performing gap analysis. You need to analyze your current state, the assist, your to be, right, your future state. You need to be able to identify, find out identify the gaps, and then a plan to bridge the gap. Now, 10,000 is the future state. That is the ideal future state where they want to be, right? And that is the target that has been set. We want to be producing 10,000 cartons of Coca-Cola every month. But the as is at the moment that we have, the current state is that we are producing 7,000 cartons of Coca-Cola, which is not where we want to be. Now, what is causing this, right? By the time they did all of the analysis, they found that, the effect is that they're having the assembly line process inefficiency. That is what they can see, right? So assembly line process inefficiency is what is leading them or causing them to produce, 7,000 instead of 10,000 cartons, right? That is the that is the effect, right? So the operations manager is saying we have some assembly line process inefficiency, and that is why we're not able to produce 10,000 cartons. That's why we're only producing, 7,000 cartons. Now, we want to find out what the root causes are to that effect. Remember, the fishbone diagram is also known as a cause and effect diagram, right? And the 6M's framework would point us to those root causes. So this is the effect that we're seeing, assembly line process inefficiency. We want to find out what the root causes are, right? So I'll just explain what an assembly line is quickly. So an assembly line is, so when you walk into a plant or into a manufacturing company, right, you would see that, typically they would have different points, right? Different points where things are happening, where operations are happening, right? In the case of Coca-Cola, you would have a place where, they would align all of the bottles, right, in like a line. That's why it's called assembly line. They would assemble them in a line, and, there's a belt that moves those bottles one after the other. So you probably will move it, to the next point. At that point, maybe that's where, they would wash the bottle, and then when the bottle is washed, it moves on to the next, point. At that point, maybe that's where they fill in, or maybe they dry the bottle to make sure it's dry of any liquid, and then moves on to the next point. That's where they probably fill in, the Coca-Cola liquid itself, the Coke or Fanta, right? They would fill it in, at that point, and then that moves to the next, assembly point, and that one, maybe that's where they put, the wrapper on the bottle, and then moves on to the next one. Maybe that's where, the cover is put on the bottle. So that's basically an assembly line. When the cover is put on the bottle, the belt moves it again to where it is packaged, and then, it's packaged into 12, and then it's ready for disbursement. So that's basically an assembly line, right? So as part of this, they've said that, we're having assembly line process inefficiencies in this Coca-Cola assembly plant or assembly line, right? Now, what are the causes? So what the 6M framework does for us, remember, is it points us to each of these, categories to investigate. So it's saying, as part of your assembly line process inefficiency, have you checked or investigated, the people? Have you analyzed the people, right? So perhaps you're having an issue with, an expertise issue or a training issue or staffing issues, right? So maybe, your staffs are not well trained to use, some of those machines or some of those, processes. And that is why, because if you don't have expertise in something, you would delay in using it. You won't be as fast as someone that, is an expert in it, right? So that delay alone could be leading to, assembly line process inefficiency, which ultimately is causing you to produce less than your target, which is 10,000 cartons. Right. So perhaps you don't have enough staff. It could be staffing issues. Maybe you need more staff on ground, to be able to meet up with the demand. So what this does for you, what Fishbone does for you, it directs you to this category. So you investigate the people that are part of this process. Do they have the expertise? Do they have the training? Do they have, do you have staffing issues, right? So you start to investigate. Maybe it's not a staffing issue. Maybe you have, adequate staff. It could be a training problem, right? So maybe the staff that you have are not well trained, right? So as part of this, you start to, and these are the gaps, these are the costs. You start to, note these things down as a business analyst. Say, okay, we've got adequate staff. However, these guys are not properly trained. They're not experts at this, these things, right? And which is possibly causing a delay, in the assembly line. Now you move to the method, right? What are the methods that they use, in producing those things? Standing position, waist motions, perhaps, the number of the staff that are part of this assembly line stand for long hours, right? And, by the time you're standing for long hours, you probably get tired. And by the time you're tired, the rate of your work will slow down. And it's just human, nature. So perhaps you need to find more ways or more mechanisms for them, the method that they use in producing all of these things. Perhaps you need to find ways for them to sit down at intervals, or as part of them position there, they find somewhere to rest their backs, or you're investigating each of those categories. Now you move on to equipment. So you investigate, all of the equipment, all of the machines that we use as part of this, production of Coca-Cola, right? Perhaps only about 30% of them are automated, right? And we all know that, automation makes things faster, right? So perhaps you then need to, and these are things you then start to note, say, we need to improve, the number of automated machines that we have to make, things faster. If we're going to meet up with a target of 10,000 cartons at the end of the month, then we need to make a way with our manual machines and start to make sure we use automation more. Or perhaps you have automated machines, or there's a machine misuse, right? Equipment misuse, right? Maybe a particular staff is not using that particular machine how it should be used, right? Which can lead to delay. All of this would lead to, assembly line process inefficiency, right? Which is causing you to not meet your target of 10,000 cartons. Now you move on to material. What are the resources? What are the quality of resources that are being used, right? As part of this, right? It could be raw material, it could be, and all of this. So when you look at the material, for example, right? So let's say, as part of the assembly line that I've described, right? Let's say by the time it moves to the point where the Coca-Cola liquid is being filled into the bottle, right? Let's say out of 10 bottles that gets to that point where the liquid is being filled in, let's say three out of 10 bottles, explodes or bursts, right? This could be due to the pressure, because this liquid will be coming from like a tap, and then it comes with pressure, goes into the bottle. So let's say 3 out of 10 bottles would explode because it can't withstand the pressure of the liquid coming into the bottle, right? So what this does for you, it says, have you investigated the materials that are used as part of this production, right? So in you investigating the materials, you look at the bottles, say, okay, we have observed that 3 out of 10 bottles, would usually explode because they can't withstand the pressure, right? That means only 7 of them, get successful at the end of the day, right? So by the time 3 out of 10 bottles explodes, and you times that by maybe 100, then you see that that's where you're having less production. Instead of you meeting up your 10,000 um, um, 10,000 cartons at the end of the month, you're only able to meet up with 7,000, because some bottles are faulty, the materials are faulty, right? So they're exploding, they can't withstand the pressure. So the quality of this, resources are not good, right? So as part of this, because most of these companies typically would have a supplier, a vendor that supplies those plastic bottles. You don't expect Coca-Cola to produce, their plastic bottles themselves, right? So as part of this, you then note this down, then you then reach out to the vendor or to the supplier to say, guys, can you look into this, the bottles that you're supplying to us? We've observed that, at least 3 out of 10, would explode because they can't withstand the pressure of the liquid, coming into the bottle, So you're seeing what the costs are now, because by the time 3 out of 10 bottles are exploding, right, per 5 minutes, right, you would have less bottles at the end of the day, right? Less bottles at the end of the day. If you're having 10 out of 10, going through successfully, then there's a likelihood that you meet your target, right? And then you move on to the medium Is there workspace cluttering? Maybe it takes sometimes in some production environments there could be a lot of cluttering, right? Where you need to move from one point to the other, but there's a delay because there's a machine that's not supposed to be here and is here, or this what's it called? This cars, not cars particularly, but these machines that they use to lift everything's in manufacturing companies and all of that. So there could be workspace cluttering here and there. The medium, right? You want to investigate, is this something that is causing delay, right? If this particular staff who is at point A on the east wants to move to point B on the west, right? Maybe it takes them 5 minutes, something that should take them 30 seconds. But because they have to avoid all of those cluttering, it takes them 5 minutes. All of those things are causes to that effect that you're seeing. They are causing that delay, right? And they're making it, that at the end of the month, you're only able to make 7,000 cartons instead of 10,000 cartons, right? And then you move on to inspection or measurements, right? So have you investigated, the measurements, the inspection, right? Are there measurable standards, right? Are there processing standards as part of your process, right? Because when you look at these measurements, these measurable standards, if there was a measurable standard in place, right, in the first instance, right, then at this point they would have caught this issue with this issue with the low quality of the bottles, right? Because if there was a measurable standard in place, they probably would have arranged, with the vendor to say, before we start to use these bottles, we'll test them, right? To make sure that they can withstand pressure. Or probably, you give us a certificate, there's a lot of testing that goes into all of those things to say we've tested all of these bottles, they can withstand this pressure up to 80 hertz or up to 100 hertz, and it's fine, right? But because there was no measurable standards in the first place, that is why by the time you got to material, you're investigating material, you find that those bottles were of low quality, right? So what the fishbone diagram does for you is points you to each of these categories to say, yes, this is the effect that you're seeing. You're having assembly line process inefficiency, right? Your target is to produce 10,000 cartons in a month, but you're only able to produce 7,000. Now, go into each of these points, go into each of these categories and investigate to find out the possible causes, right? To find out the possible gaps, right? So when you look at people, are there staffing issues, are there expertise issues, training issues? Look at the methods, look at the equipment, are the machines there automated or they're manual? Look at the material, are they of low quality? Like the example that I gave, look at the medium workspace cluttering, look at the inspection or the measurements, are there standards, right, that you can check or put in place to make sure that, you don't have all of these inefficiencies. So fishbone diagram points you to each of these, categories to say, this is the effect that you're seeing, right, which is assembly line process inefficiencies. But we need to find the possible cause, the causes, right? And for you to find those causes, for you to find those gaps, look into each of these categories, investigate them critically, right? And as part of your investigation, you're able to find out what the possible causes are, what the possible issues are. And then those are the gaps. Then you can make a plan to bridge those gaps. If it's a training issue, you train your staff. If you lack staff, you employ more people. If machines are not automated, you start to make sure that they're automated. If the quality of the materials are not good, you make sure there's a standard in place, to have high quality materials, and so on. So the fishbone diagram, also known as the cause and effect diagram, points you to each of these categories, for you to be able to determine the causes of the effect that you're seeing. Right. At this point, so that's all we're going to be doing today. But at this point, I'll hand over to Dami to take it from here. Dami, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Thank you so much, June. Can we give Shimi a round of applause? Thank you for all that presentation. I have learned so much today about gap analysis, and I hope you guys have also learned one or two as well. All right, so thank you once again, Shim. So I'm going to move to the next level of our what we have here for today. So now I'm going to be talking about how you can become a business analyst, and I'll try to round all of this up in 30 minutes. So in less than 30 minutes would be out of the year, if we don't have a lot of questions. Just please stay with me. So how can you become a business analyst? Like Shima said, a business analyst is supposed to be someone who acts as a bridge between business stakeholders and technical teams. It's basically giving us an example, like a typical example of what a business analyst would be doing, which is gap analysis, right? So you're ensuring that there's effective communication and understanding of requirements. Please confirm you can see my screen. Oh,
Not yet.
right. I thought I was sharing my screen. Just going to share. Okay, how about now?
Yep.
Thank you. So you act as a bridge between business stakeholders and technical teams and so on and so forth. And the average salary of a business analyst in the UK is £52,500. In Canada, it is 74,000 Canadian dollars, and in the US, it is 85,000 US dollars. All right. So the key learning areas that we're going to be focusing on as business analysts to be Excel, Power BI, and SQL. These are like you're going to be learning the basics of how to use Excel, how to use Power BI, and how to use SQL, because these are like important, right? As a business analyst, not like they are your core tools, but we just added them for you to be able to have knowledge of these things, so that if you at any point in time are required to analyze data, you know how to do that by yourself. Then we move into process mapping, talking about the how to, like, a very practical example of how to map out the as is and to be processes. Then project initiation planning, agile and scrum for projects. Then you learn software development lifecycle, requirements fundamentals, elicitation, stakeholder analysis and engagement, and chat GPT for business analysis. These are the things that you're going to be learning in the business analysis program. Now, the learning timeline is for 4 months. So you can become a business analyst in 4 months. You learn for 2 months, and then you intern for 2 months. So you have 2 months of live classes, learning everything business analysis. Then after that, you do your capstone projects. That's like a round of projects, like something like an examination or something. And then you come back to do a virtual internship for 2 months. That's you're going to be working on managing a web app development project, and so on and so forth. So these are the tools that you'll be using. On the right hand side, you have Excel, SQL, Power BI. You'll be learning how to use Lucid Chart, Confluence, Jira software, Jodo.io, Trello, and ChatGPT for business analysis. Now, why should you train with Analytics? Why should you train with Analytics? Check out some of our achievements in 2023. We helped over 850 plus people transition from the classroom to their first job in tech. We assisted over 850 persons transition from their from the classroom to their first job in tech across UK, Africa, Canada, Europe, Asia, and so on and so forth. So why should you train with us? We have up-to-date curriculum. We work with up-to-date curriculum. So you're not working with a backdated or an outdated or whatever dated curriculum. You're working with up-to-date curriculum. It's like everything that is presently present in the business analysis world today is what you're going to be working with. Then we have industry experts with hands-on experience, somebody like Shale and a couple of other persons, people that you're going to be learning from. They'll be teaching you with 100% hands-on experience. Then it's blended training delivery to accommodate everyone, right? So we have something that we call watch me lead videos that we send to help people understand concepts better. Then we have additional employability sessions. These are like CV review sessions, LinkedIn optimization, Upwork optimization to prepare you for the job market. Then you also have internship designed to simulate the real work environment. So you're going to be basically gaining real life experience right from Analytics. All right. And all of this comes together to make you a an industry-ready business analyst. So how we position you for success in the job market in a three-layered approach. Number one is the additional employability services. Like I mentioned, we have the CV review sessions where we bring in an expert. Our in-house employability partner will help you take you through how to develop your CV. You know, you see some CVs these days and you're a bit scared. You're seeing age, you're seeing location. These things should not be on your CV. So we'll teach you how to actually model your CV in a way that it attracts recruiters. Then we have the LinkedIn optimization. LinkedIn is very important. You get like job proposals from LinkedIn. So we'll teach you how to optimize your LinkedIn in a way that it reflects you as a business analyst and the values that you have to offer to different companies. Then we have the Upwork optimization for people that do not want to, you don't want to work with anybody, you want to be a boss of your own, you want to freelance. We have Upwork optimization. We'll teach you how to use Upwork as a business analyst. Then we have the navigating job market sessions where we teach you where to go to get jobs, what to do to get jobs, the steps to take to navigate the job market. We give you different websites where you can actually apply for jobs all the time. Then we have job and interview preparation sessions. These are sessions that if you have a job interview, even if you've left the analytics for a year and then you come back, you have a job interview, we prep you. Okay, so that's never going anywhere, right? So job preparation sessions, we have interview demo sessions to prep you for your future interviews. Then we have the recommendation or reference letter offer. If peradventure you get a job and you need a reference, right? We write recommendation letters would help you write a recommendation letter. Then the level 2 will be weekly mentorship sessions that we have every Thursday in the evening, of course, right? So these are sessions that will bring in experts, then we bring in body mentors, we bring in the founder and the co-founder to mentor you, right? Because it's very important that you learn from people that have the experience, So by virtue of these mentorship sessions, you learn a lot from people that have gone through the process that you are now embarking on. Then we have the on-the-job support, whereby if you've gotten a job and you need somebody to help you with one thing or the other, we offer on-the-job support. Then we have the level 3, which is our promise to you, and that is a guaranteed job interview 1 month after completing your training with us. That is guaranteed. Okay, so 1 month after completing your training, you get to go through a guaranteed job interview. All right. You can also you also have access to our growth internship program, right? This is where you intern for a while. You get to work on different projects, and like I said earlier, this is for 2 months where you get to work on. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so where you get to work on different projects that would help you accelerate your career and equip you with requisite work experience. You also you have like a dedicated coach assigned to you to help you through this 2 months journey, right? You learn relevant work, gather relevant work experience through this internship. Now we have our next cohort coming up on the 2nd of March. It's going to be starting on the 2nd of March, and you can be a part of that cohort. Okay, so good news, we have discounts for the first 10 people that register for the course starting on the 2nd of March. For the business analysis program, you have the option of paying in dollars or in pounds, or you can go ahead and use this link that my colleague is going to drop in the chat now to make payments for the program. Okay, so you can pay in pounds, or if you're paying in dollars, you're paying the full amount is $750, but you get to pay discounted amounts. For the first 10 people that register, you can pay the discounted amount. All right, and that is $600. You also get to pay in 2 installments. You can pay for now, for the first payment, you get to pay $450, and for the second payment, you get to pay $150. If you're paying in pounds, you're paying 625 pounds in full, but you have the discounted amount of 500 pounds. You get to pay 375 pounds for the fourth payment, and then 1 month into the program, you get to pay the remaining 125 pounds. So you can pay using the PayPal or PayStack link. If you click on this link, it takes you to a website where you can pay and register for the program. So like I said, the discount is only applicable to the first 10 people that register, the first 10 people. Once we meet the first 10 people mark, every other person will be paying the full amount. Okay. So like we said, it always seems, like we always say at Analytics, it always seems impossible until it's actually done. And we have a lot of success stories to back this up, to back up our when we say we are good, we are actually good, and we have a lot of success stories to back this up. For example, we have Mujisola took our business analysis program, and now she works as a business analyst in the UK. Okay, you can see the message sent to Adeza. So she reached out to us, we prepped her for the interview, and today she works as a business analyst in the UK. You also have Olame Michael, who got a job as a business data analyst in the UK as well, working in the energy sector. You can see the message that he also sent, telling us how he was able to land a job after the program. Then we also have this is when you get the slides, you can actually like read the full story and all of that. So you can see him saying, I got a business data analyst role on Friday, and yeah. Then we have Abigail. Abigail works as a business. She got a job from being a care worker, she got a job as a business analyst after our program and our mentorship and our interview prep and all of that. So she currently works as a business analyst in Edmonton, Canada. Then we have Ramat, such an amazing lady. After the program, she got a job as a business analyst with the NHS. Okay, and this came with full visa sponsorship. You know how amazing that is. So we have a lot of success stories here that you can check out and just read through. We have Rafiat here. She got a job as a business analyst with the post office in the UK. We have Deshola, who also got a job as a business analyst in NHS in the UK. Okay, so a lot more stories to read. This is Olubemi, got a job as a business data analyst with Law Depot in Canada as well. This is Ramat. I'm just going to play Ramat's I'm going to play Ramat's video so you can see for yourself. You can hear directly from Ramat by yourself. Okay, so I'm waiting for the video to come up. If you have any questions, please use the reason icon and I'll call you in the next couple of minutes. The internet is messing with everybody today. I don't know why. But yeah, let's just continue. Okay. It's coming up. Okay, so I'm just going to move on while we wait for that to go on. So yeah, we have all of these success stories, goes on and on and on, and so there's just a lot to show that we are not just capping when we say that you have a lot to gain from registering for our program. All right, so some of the projects that you're going to be working on, this is a business case development case study, right, where you'll be working on launching a sustainable packaging solution in a consumer goods company. A lot of case studies that you'll be working on. This is a process mapping and optimization case study, right? A lot of them, and these are real life case studies. They are not just conjured by some people. These are real life case studies. All right. So these are some of the projects that I'm going to be working on. Now, the business analysis roadmap, like I said earlier, it's 4 months of learning journey, right? So you have 2 months of project-based live classes, then you work on a capstone project, then 2 months of internship where you're going to be working on managing a web app development projects. And all our classes are virtual instructor led. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home to take these classes. On Saturdays and Sundays, we have our live classes, morning session for people in the UK, Africa, and so on and so forth is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. West African time. Then for evening session on Saturdays, it's 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. West African time, and that's like 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Alberta Mountain time. Then on Sundays, you have your live classes as well for people that are in the UK, in Africa, in Europe. Classes are between 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. for the morning session, West African time, that is. Then for the evening session, it's 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. West African time. And that's 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Alberta Mountain time. So that's the business analysis roadmap, learning journey. Very interesting. And even after completing this program, you don't necessarily have to, there's a mistake that people make whereby they go ahead and search for just business analysis roles, which is wrong, because if you take the business analysis program, you can work as a business analyst, as a business systems analyst, as an IT business analyst, operations analyst, continuous improvement analyst, change management analyst, business support analyst, business process analyst, change analyst, and so on and so forth. There's a lot that you can work as, not just as the career trajectory is, or the career possibilities is quite large when you take the business analysis program. So a little thing about why people struggle to land a job, which we always speak against here at Analytics. One main thing is putting the cart before the horse. That is going to take a lot of courses without actually learning, without hands-on or practical learning. And that is wrong, right? You need to learn to put your competence over your credentials. And what we teach you here at Analytics is a lot of competence, right? And then trivializing job application is also one of the major reasons why people struggle to land a job, because you are applying for a job and you're using one CV, one size fits all. That's another thing that will teach you to not do here at Analytics. And then we also imbibe in you interviewing skills, because these are very important. You can't go to an interview and they're asking you, tell me about yourself, and you're saying, my name is so, I'm 30 years of age. These are things that should not happen. So we would imbibe you with good interviewing skills. You must learn how to sell yourself during interviews. These and many more are things that you're going to be learning in the business analysis program. So discount is for the first 10 people to register. The earlier you register, the better. Meet your facilitators. We have Adeza Suleiman. I introduced him earlier as the founder of Tenalytics. He's data analytics expert that is going to be helping you navigate your business analysis career. Then we also have Shion. Shion just finished the last practical session, and you're going to be learning from Shion as well. We have Linda. Linda is also another business analysis expert that you're going to be working with, and she has over 10 years of experience in business analysis field. And so you're going to be learning a lot from Linda. We've got Olabisi as well. She's a business analyst at Access Bank, and yeah, also somebody that you're going to be learning a lot from. So more testimonials. When you get the slides, please go ahead and watch the testimonials. We've kept them there for you to watch and see what we have to offer. So I think the video is open now.
Hi everyone, my name is Ikma, and I was with the match codes in Tenalytics, and joining Tenalytics has been the best decision so far. You know, for me, someone coming from a background of full housewife, because I had to stay back home to look after my child for 4 years, and then wanting to break into something new, wanting to go back into the workforce, wanting to place myself in it.
Sorry, can you guys hear the audio? I don't think it's not. I'm just going to stop sharing and
Yeah, we can hear.
share. Oh, you could hear the audio.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then I'm just going to share my screen.
Society for better job opportunities. So it was a lot. And then I'm glad that analytics came along and then they presented me with so many opportunities right in front of me, better opportunities. And then I'm glad I took it. And then also
Okay, I think we can't hear now. We can't hear it now.
and then another thing is the interview prep, guys. That is another very important thing. I did my interview prep with Mr. Mohammed, and it was the best decision ever because it was like he saw into the future. He knew what was going to be asked, and I'm glad that I wrote down all the things he mentioned. I went back to practice, and then when it was time for the interview, it was like everything he was mentioning, everything he mentioned, it was just they kept on. And then when I was answering those questions, I was so confident, because I already practiced. I did an Excel test, I did a math test, and then they were really impressed. And another thing is, guys, it may not come as fast as you expect. Definitely, you are going to get some no's, and then you may begin to think you're not good enough. You are good enough, yes. The no's will come, but always take it as a basis for learning and development.
So yeah, I'm just gonna stop that so we can always watch um the slides. But yes, at this point we're going to go ahead and take questions. So if you have any questions for me or any clarifications, please use the raise hand icon and I will call you. Okay, so we have CJ. CJ, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question? Ubong, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, and you want.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So CJ, you have your hand raised. Do you have any questions for us? Okay, I guess not. Do we have any other person with questions? Okay, hi Afolabi. Good evening. Do you have any questions for us?
Hello,
Okay.
sorry. Hello, can you hear me? Sorry.
Oh yeah, we can hear you now.
I navigated out because I'm using my phones. I just wanted to find out what the discount is. How much is discount?
Oh,
And
okay.
if you have any suitable time, because I'm just joining, I joined very late. And if you have any suitable time for people in America.
Yeah, of course. So I said earlier that the discounted amount is right here. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, so if you're paying, you can pay in 2 installments, right? You can choose to pay you can also pay for the full amount. That's fine. But if you are unable to do that right now, you can pay the first payment, and that's £450, $450, rather. Then 1 month into the program, you pay the rest. Okay. Then if you're paying in
How much
pounds,
is the total for the class?
it's $600 in total.
In naira, how much is it in naira?
Yeah, so we can't do that calculation for you here. You,
No,
if you want to,
I'm not in. I'm speaking for someone that is in Nigeria that want to join. So how much is it in naira? Because the person is going to pay in naira.
oh, okay. So you can send this main stack link to the person. So if you click on, let me just, if you click on the link, it will take you to a website where you can make the payment and it will do the conversion for you. All right. So you don't have to stress.
Okay.
You can just use the link and it will take you to the payment. You can see my colleague has pasted that in the chat. So once you click on it, it takes you to the part where you can see the conversion directly for yourself.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. No problem. I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. And then for your second question, for classes, we have Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, so the morning session is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. But if you're asking for the evening session tailored towards people that are in the US, that's 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. West African time on Saturdays, then 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. West African time on Sundays, and that's about 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay, now another question is, people in Nigeria, are they still paying the same amount that people in UK and US are paying?
Yes. Okay. So
why? No, it's unfair for people back there in Nigeria. I think you guys need to consider a lot of things. Things are very rough. Things are very hard back there in Nigeria. You know it. So how come somebody in US who is earning in dollar and somebody in UK who is earning in pounds be paying the same amount with somebody in Nigeria that has a minimum wage of 30,000 naira and may not even have a job?
Okay, CJ, and thank you for that. Right, but it's thank you for raising that. Okay, I don't have a response for that at the moment, but the payment is general for everyone. So
even people in Nigeria are paying in dollars or they're paying in pounds, because by the time you do the conversion, you are paying equivalent. Am I right?
Hi, CJ. So the thing is, I mean, the payment is to be made in pounds or dollars, but for those who wants to pay in naira, I believe you would have to pay in the prevailing exchange for that particular day. So if that's the case, I think you can reach out to the team through that link, and they'll be able to advise you accordingly. Right? There's a standard across board, whether you are in the UK, whether you are in Canada, whether you're in Nigeria. It's a standard amount you have to pay. But if you want to pay in other currencies, you have to pay using the exchange rate at that particular time. So you can reach out to the team and they will advise you on that.
So the standard amount is $600.
Yes, that's
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, no problem. I will let them know. I'll let them again know. Because because I did data analytics with TED Analytics as well, and I know how much we paid for data analytics. Then coming to business analysis, I'm seeing a different thing. I don't know if the same amount.
I'm sure it wasn't this year you did data analysis.
In fact, we are
and then
finished.
You know how things have been since then. So
of course things are supposed to be better.
And if you compare this with other training institutes, I can bet you that this is the best offer you would get. And this is not me talking.
You guys keep on telling us that you want to liberate us, that we want to liberate Nigerians who are back there in Nigeria that are struggling to get job and all that. So if $600 for now, $600 now is $1 million plus in naira. As at today, dollar is 1,700. So by the time you times it by 600, you know how much somebody in Nigeria is paid.
So that's the thing. See, the truth is not everybody No. So I understand your point. I understand your point, but not everybody will be able to do what they want to do, right? Based on limited resources. If you're able to
education
by
Education is no longer for the poor.
it's what it is. It's an unfair world. In an ideal world, it should be. Everyone should be able to access it. But we are not in an ideal world. And we have to face that fact. Right? We are not in an ideal world. So it is what it is.
Listen, to me,
I
we
kind
should,
of understood what CJ is talking about.
yeah, to me,
It isn't easy.
to me, people in Nigeria should pay less than people in abroad. Because by the time by the time my shift here in US can pay this, and somebody in Nigeria, it will take the person like how many months to get 1 point something million.
It's almost an impossible mission for that person.
Okay, yes.
So that is that.
So yeah, CJ, we do understand what you're saying, right? But if you if you have any, additional words for us, you can always reach out to us on any of our social media pages, and yeah, we'll take it up from there. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you, CJ. Yeah, so we have Chino. Chino, do you have any questions for us? Hi, Chino, you have your hand raised. If you have any questions for us. Okay, do we have any other person with questions or any other clarifications? Okay, so in the absence of none, this is where we'll be stopping for today. I've taken 2 extra minutes and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody that stayed to the end of the program. Really appreciate and would love to see you in class. Okay, so what we've done here today is like the tip of the iceberg. If you'd like to see more, register for the program. And yes, we'll see you on the 2nd of March. I would love to see you in class, CJ. So enjoy. Have a very lovely night, or have a very lovely day. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye. You too. Bye.